team. I think it's your second time. So what does that mean to you? And second, I know you like to leave individual goals alone until maybe off season, but was the 100 sack a relief for you?
First part of that question, to be nominated a second time for the WPMOY for the Saints, that's huge. That's a blessing. That's a nod of acknowledgement of the work that I'm doing in the community. And to me, that's when I first heard it initially, I was like, it's not going to stop me from doing my work, but if anything, it's going to add on to it. Because I mean, this gives like an extra light onto sort of the social justice reform that Crescent City Corps is been added on to with the their training of the NOPD officers that have been a part of their now 2 cohorts, and looking forward to the future for that. It's a nod to the relief work we did earlier this year for Hurricane Harvey, teaming up with United Way. It's always going to be an ability to sort of put a spotlight on one of my favorite inner city youth programs, YEP, which is the Youth Empowerment Program. So, if you would have asked me this for my first nomination, I was like, I don't want the cameras around. Now that I'm older, now that I'm a little bit wiser, I understand that even though I don't want the cameras around, this helps put a highlight on some of the great programs that I've been able to be a part of. With my foundation, God is Love, it's just been a blessing to even be able to be a part of community the way I have been these last, I'd say 11 years, but the last year, whatever it takes in consideration to be a part of WPMOY. I think that this prestigious Walter Payton Man of the Year award can go a long way with highlighting individuals and their work that they're doing, as well as beyond the individuals, the work that is being done. And I still think that there's so many other teammates that are still qualified. I mean, every time I look across the locker room and I see guys like Teron Armstead and Alvin Kamara and Double D, Demario Davis and Malcolm Jenkins, and the work that they do within their communities, that's re-inspiring. So it's a challenge to do more. Like it's a great nod, acknowledgement, but there's still so much more work that I can do and hopefully will be doing in the future. The second part, you're gonna have to remind me because now I just went off on a whole rant.
the 100 sacks was it a relief to get there?
You can't talk about philanthropic efforts and then just talk about an individual stat. I mean, but I mean, the 100 sacks is a phenomenal achievement. Had I not just had been told I was a run stopper my rookie year and only had 1 sack my rookie year, maybe I would have got here faster. But we're here now. In my wildest dreams, I don't think I thought about getting 100 sacks when I first entered the league. I probably had a third or maybe half as a goal. It was, if I could carve myself out a solid career of, 7 to 10 years, 40 to 50 sacks, a couple Pro Bowls, I think that would have been a phenomenal feat for me, because then I just wouldn't, I wouldn't have had to consider myself a failure next to my dad. But when it comes down to it, to be a part of the Saints organization alone for this last 11 years has been a blessing. To see the teammates I've had, from Jimmy Graham to Drew Brees to Akeem Hicks, there's been so many phenomenal people that I've met, from Sheldon Rankins, Marcus Davenport, David Onyemata. You talk about John Vilma, AJ Klein, James Laurinaitis, Manti Te'o. And that's just mostly defense. I mean, you talk about Robert Meacham, Marcus Colston, Chris Ivory, the Mark Ingram, Saints lead rusher Mark Ingram. Everything that the Saints have meant to me, it goes beyond just sacks. It goes to the teammates I've had, to the locker rooms I've been a part of, to who I am now, to who I aspire to be. 100 sacks is a phenomenal milestone personally, but beyond that, it's that I've done to the same club. It's that I've had the interpersonal connections with the teammates that I've had that have really brought true meaning to 100 sacks. There's just so much more that you don't see in the personal accolade.
Cat Terrell.
Hey, sorry, I think you just called my name. It froze for a second.
They did. They called you. And then
sorry, I just wasn't listening apparently.
Hurtful.
Cam, I was wondering if you could tell me like what your streak of consecutive games played meant to you, and did you ever feel a sense of pressure to play through injury like the longer the streak went on, if that makes sense?
There's no sense of pressure to play football. If you haven't figured out by now, Kat, like I love this game. I mean, when it comes down to practice, it doesn't matter if it's a training camp or regular season. I mean, I love playing the game of football. There's no pressure to play unless I guess it's on myself. And I mean, I always want to play football. I go home and play with my son. He wants to play tackle football now. In the off season, you miss it. Like, you're like, oh, I can't wait to heal up in the off season. 2 weeks in, you're like, can it be football season again? Like now you got spring training with baseball, which is fun if you like watching baseball. You get to travel, which is cool because everybody likes to travel. But again, 2-3 weeks in, you're like, damn, I just want to hit somebody. I just want to put the pads on, be in the locker room, and know I'm going to war with my teammates that have gone through the hellfire of training camp with me. So the answer would be there's no pressure. It's only expectation to play because each one of these snaps could be one of my last snaps. So you got to be able to enjoy the moment. And I feel like I've played that way since high school ball. Because you play football. We know it's a finite time that you have, so you better enjoy each and every second. Though you could take the meetings with you. You could have those. I'm just here to play football.
Maybe someone can petition to put like an asterisk or something like next to the streak since you didn't get injured.
My team won. What does that matter?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Cam, that enthusiasm you've had for football and you can tie in, the work you've always done in the community too. I mean, you're obviously a very dynamic type A personality. I mean, has that been you since a young age, or was there a time when you came out of your shell? Or
that's something you'd have to ask my mother. 6, 7-year-old me waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, singing and screaming at the top of the lungs. I thought everybody did that. Apparently not. But now I've got a son who's just like me. So now I'm getting just desserts. So I fully understand what I was doing. But I can only say, hopefully it propels him to greatness because he does the same. Like I look at him like I'm looking at a mirror sometimes, just 26 years younger. I've always been me. I think the only thing that has changed is the family nickname to now just being called Cam. That's about all that's changed for me.
Well, I was surprised when you said you would have come into this league just being happy to play 7-8 years and have 50 sacks. I mean, your goals, have they grown with each year, or were you just being humble and like you've always wanted to get the maximum that you can? I mean, I know you've talked about playing up to 20 years sometimes.
I feel like 16 was a solid number. Another 5 years after that, that's super solid. We'll probably, we'll re-engage around then. I don't know if I've ever wanted to play 20 though. Like there's nothing in me that says I'm going to be 40 years old playing football. Come on. I respect Whitworth. I respect Tom Brady, Drew Brees. Half the kickers in the game, it won't be me. 40 will not. It better not be me. I feel like with the energy that I give this game, everything that I've been able to give this game, and everything the game has given to me, I've never taken it for granted. I've always enjoyed each moment that I've been here. So no, I'm not being humble when I said 40, 50 sacks. My rookie year, again, I try and tell people I got drafted to play the 4-eye. I got drafted to play a 3 technique, and I worked my ass off to become a defensive end and be recognized as such. So from 1 sack my rookie year to, as high as 15 and a half sacks one of these years, I look back at it, and since then I don't think I've had a season with less than, now let's call it less than 7.5. I guess we still have time for this one. I don't want to knock on wood. I'm at 6 now. Would have been 7 with the Josh Allen track, but it was a Quan Alexander interception. We won't talk about it. We're just going to move forward. I just feel like with each game and each step that we take forward. You know, during season, it's about the team. And then again, in the off season, we'll talk about personal accolades. But for me, it's about loving each and every minute that I'm in this building, being able to work and do the job that I love.
Got time for one more. Brett Martell.
Okay, I do have a football question, but first.
Let's do it. It's time.
First day union matter. I wanted to just ask you real quick, just because of your involvement in that. Last week, when there was some discussion apparently about maybe canceling 3 games, how much were the players kept aware of that, and what was your kind of reaction to that notion being floated out there?
I'm gonna preface this with I'm an NFLPA rep alternate. You'd have to talk to Demario Davis as the team NFLPA rep. I will say I knew that the games weren't going to get canceled though. Come on, Big Biz wins.
But you weren't. Were players concerned about that idea of not, because you wouldn't get paid and stuff? I mean, if that happened, not you, but the guys in those 3 games.
Refer to those last 3 words I just gave you.
Okay. As far as the football question, look, I remember you telling us over the summer at one of your community events. You know, you wanted to enter your second decade building on everything, second decade in the league, building on everything you had accomplished in the first, and showing you're still in your prime and playing as well as ever. Lately, it looks like you have. Was it difficult though, early in the year when the results or the stats weren't, the sacks weren't coming, and how do you put that all in perspective?
No, I mean it's a season. If anything, I just say take a deep breath. It's a 17 game season, and in the first part of the season, there was a lack of depth at D line for us. You know, our starters that we looked forward to were sort of out of it. David was gone for 6 games. Marcus was gone for 4 of those 6 games. So you can see what happens when we have our full depth and our full depth of starters, and the focus isn't able to just be shifted on one person. I could tell you the first part of that season, I was catching more doubles and triples than I think I'd ever seen before. But that's just a personal gripe. When it comes down to it, we were winning, and whatever it takes to win, we'll do that. So the answer would be no frustration. I'm on full tilt because, again, I came to this league as a run stopper. You're not just going to define me by being a pass rusher. If I went sackless for the year, I know I played the hell out of that run.